Should Final Fantasy going forth return to turn-based or not? That is the question. The answer is yes, but also no, but also yes, but also no. There really is no right answer to this. But this is that video. Let's actually discuss whether or not Final Fantasy should actually go turn-based because of Expedition 33's success. What's going on, guys? So if you don't know, if you're living on the rock, a new game from a very small studio, indie studio technically, called Sandfall Studio or Sandfall Interactive. They have recently dropped a new game called Clair Obscur Expedition 33. If you don't know what this game is a turn-based strategy type of game along the likes of like the Final Fantasy, the Persona, the Dragon Quest, the Pokemon. Yes, that turn-based combat. But this time made by a very smaller studio, and it's not technically a JRPG, but they're made by around 30 developers. Yes, you heard that right. It'd be funny if it's 33 because, you know, Expedition 33 devs. That would be hilarious. And these are 30-ish members that previously worked for Ubisoft. They started with one member, yes, one developer. He had like a passion idea, and this is when I think he was still working with Ubisoft. It grew up to 6 members from Ubisoft, and then they left, and they also garnered around 30-ish members. Put all their passion, time, and energy into this project. This is a passion project, it really is, because they took a big risk to really achieve their dreams. I find it kind of funny that I left Ubisoft because Ubisoft is kind of like fallen off for me. The studio's really not making a good first impression for a lot of gamers nowadays. So these guys, these smaller developers, they really just jumped ships and took a big risk. And look, the risk paid out. For the game itself, I don't know much about the story, characters, because I'm trying to be like spoiler free. I've yet to actually buy the game yet. Sandfall, if you have, you know, a spare code, hit your boy up. But besides that, I've seen enough of the gameplay, because this is what this video's topic's about. Whether or not turn-based should return for JRPGs, or should I say Final Fantasy games. So I looked a lot into Expedition 33 combat. It looks really good for a turn-based game. Now for me, I like turn-based. I don't like love it, or it doesn't deter me, should I say. Because I know a lot of people, when they see turn-based, they're like, no, not for me. And I've been raised with the Final Fantasy games, the Pokemon games, you know, I play that one Pokemon, Persona games, you name it, and they are some of my favorite games of all time. But over the years, I kind of do prefer action-based combats with some strategical elements built into it. For example, the FF7 Remake Games, to me, they are the best RPG type of combat of all time. In spite of that, Expedition 33 looks amazing. And what I love about this team, the developers for this game, they didn't just want to make a typical turn-based game. They want to make it more innovative or add some novelty to it. Now I think some stuff, right, because this game has a lot of glazing going on. Now before you hate like, oh my god, how dare you say glazing. There's good glazing and there's bad glazing. So there's glazing where people try and push this game because obviously it's quality, and that's good. You should be glazing this game, right? We all should be campaigning a game like this. It's truly like creative, unique. But just to explain it simply, it looks like a game with no influence from like the internet people or, you know, Twitter, should I say. A game that these developers had a vision, and they're gonna achieve that vision regardless if you like it or not, without outside influence. And that's what I love about this. And this plays a role into like combat. They wanted to do turn-based strategy based game. So Clair Obscur director Guillermo Broche, I'm so sorry, I definitely butchered this name, but the director of Expedition 33, he played a bunch of JRPGs when he was younger. So among those lists includes Final Fantasy, of course. If you don't know, the director had the interview with the director of FF15, Final Fantasy 15, which to me, I freaking love Final Fantasy 15. I'll die on that hill saying that. And I really appreciate Tabata. He took a lot of hate from FF15 or Final Fantasy fans in general. So besides Final Fantasy, the director also plays Suikoden, Atelier, Shadow Hearts, Persona, Legend of Dragoon, Shin Megami Tensei. I played every Japanese games. So he is based, you know, they are based devs. Just from this alone, this is 16th of April, this is before the release date. So you know this game are made by developers that knows a turn-based RPG. Forget turn-based, an RPG game. They know what makes an RPG game great. So I tell you, I don't know much about this, but I know this have like a cult following, and their fans, they love this game. They always preach this game. Shadow Hearts is also another underrated game that I don't know much about. Same with Suikoden. Persona, of course, I know. Legend of Dragoon is insane. That's a sleeper hit. Release a sequel or at least a remake of Legend of Dragoon. I think that would thrive in this economy. He says he played every Japanese game before he made Expedition 33, just, you know, research to gain a better understanding of RPGs in general. And it looks like it worked out a lot because everyone's loving Expedition 33 to the point people are wanting other big, you know, JRPG companies to take inspiration from 33. So I want to talk about combat now. I've not played it yet, so I can't really judge whether it's good or not. but I can take points from what people have played online as well as my friends who have played it. People love the innovative style they have for turn-based. It's not just a typical turn-based game. The devs knew we need to try for something unique, you know, something to really capture the new audience, because this is a new IP. You can't just go for a typical turn-based like the Pokemon. We need to have identity for 33. One identities that they go for is parry mechanics, because people are glamoring the fact that the parry mechanics in the game is amazing and is a cool, innovative way to expand the turn-based genre. And while I agree, I don't believe Expedition 33 is actually the first to do it when it comes to parry system in turn-based. The one that comes to mind, I'm sure Mario RPG or Mario Luigi is the one I played on DS. I'm sure there's a parry mechanic there where you have to time the inputs to dodge or block attacks. But another game that no one ever thinks about, which is kind of sad, a sleeper hit, Indivisible. This is made by an indie studio as well. Skullgirls, that's it. So Lab Zero, they made Skullgirls first and then they went on to make Indivisible. Indivisible is such a cool game. I've only played the demo, so I can't really talk much about the full game. I'm sure from memory, correct me if I'm wrong, they have a parry mechanic, so you block at the right time so you heal and gain some advantage. So technically this is a parry mechanic. So I don't know if Expedition 33 is the first to do it. And there could be more games. This is just two I mentioned, Mario RPG or Mario Luigi, as well as Indivisible. There could be a bunch more we don't know. I've seen a lot of the gameplay, and what I can tell is I love the vision, right? I love the portrayal or the direction they go for this turn-based combat, because it looks very cinematic, has a cool direction to it. And on top of this, everyone online is loving this game. But the combat, specifically turn-based, people are digging it, right? Now, we still are in the honeymoon phase for this game, right? So I feel like there will be some complaints coming down, like maybe in the near future or a month or two from now. Because this is one opponent glazing, is that I want to see the drawbacks, right? Because there's a drawbacks to every game. FF7 Remake Trilogy, one of my favorite combat mechanics of all time, if not my favorite for an RPG. Even then, they have some room for improvement. So I want to see, for like any of you guys that are watching who have played this game, tell me any of the drawbacks, stuff that could be fixed or improved upon. And yes, while it is amazing, I feel like some people should be a bit critical as well, so that, you know, Sandfall knows what to improve for the future or future installments. Now, I've not seen much complaints when it comes to turn-based mechanics for this game. The common issues you get with every or most turn-based games is that it gets repetitive, right? And that's just not turn-based, that's with any game. If you play for many hours, you'll feel fatigued, or it feels like monotonous and tedious, and it becomes the same cycle. Maybe after the 30-40 hours, you probably explored everything, or I'd say 90% of what the combat can offer. And that's not saying it's a bad thing or we shouldn't be doing turn-based combats, but that is a negative, and again, that is a negative that is very common with turn-based games. Turn-based is a combat style that's very difficult to make it feel refreshing and unique. They need to make it ways to feel like a novelty factor to it, and 33 has done that and achieved that. But what are they going to do for sequels, and how is this game going to feel after like 50 hours of game time? Now, this is me just definitely making assumptions, but this is something that has plagued or is a very common issue with turn-based games. Now let's look at how well this game has done, right? It's a turn-based game. Did this game do well? And of course it did. You know, it got critically acclaimed, amazing reviews, phenomenal reviews in fact. 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. I think 9 out of 10 was the lowest I could find. I'm so happy this game reviewed well, because if you don't know, this game drops around the time when goddamn Oblivion remake from Bethesda, big ass studio, Shadow dropped that game. So they announced and released Oblivion remake on the same day, and I think this is the day before Expedition 33. So, you know, the devs, if I was the devs, I'd be like, what the hell, this is bad timing, Bethesda, like what? And this is a huge monumental game, especially for the Skyrim Bethesda fans. They've been hounding for a new Oblivion type of game, and they got it. Sad thing is, again, so close to Expedition. So I even told my friend, telling him like the reviews for Expedition 33 needs to be good. As you know, it needs to be amazing. It can't be just good. Oblivion's gonna snatch up a lot of the audience for me. It needs to reach a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. That's the only way to push this game. You gotta remember, this game is, again, an indie game, despite how it looks. Very impressive, but it's still an indie game with indie devs. So the marketing, there wasn't much to it, because again, smaller studio, smaller budget. I would guess they couldn't invest or put much money when it comes to marketing. Because this game, I've not seen much marketing for it besides the first debut trailer. So a lot of the push for this game technically came from the turn-based fanatics or like RPG fans. So the fans themselves are really pushing this game. So the reviews had to be amazing, and it was. And I'm happy for this studio because this is that push to marketing that they needed to survive, you know, the gruesome attack or the malicious attack from Bethesda with Oblivion. Likely unintentional, but it's so funny that they did a shadow drop so soon. Besides reviews, what about sales, right? Because that's what really matters for these companies. Sales looks amazing. It looks like it performed absolutely incredible. From what has been confirmed, it have reached the 1 million milestone. So 1 million copies sold. This excludes the Game Pass or Xbox Game Pass, which you get the game for free if you have the Game Pass. This excludes those numbers, so it could be higher. Like the player count could actually be higher than the sales figures. So 1 million is nothing to snuff at for one, indie devs. Two, first game for that studio, Sandfall Studio. So this is incredible. They performed amazingly well. This is insane, and they deserve it. Like you can tell from their Twitter account, they are ecstatic. They are so like happy with the news, and they look like super humble devs. Like they're very interactive with their fans, reply to a lot of people commenting on their posts. They're really engaged with their audience, and I love that. It makes you want to support and vouch for these devs. If you want to go into more sales figures, we could look at the Steam charts. I think Steam charts are bogus. Like literally, it's kind of stupid. But it's actually kind of the only metric you can kind of go for when it comes to like player base on the PC platform in Steam. So these are the figures of the different RPG that came out in the past couple of years. And as you can see here, Expedition 33 reached 71,000 concurrent players. Now this is old values or figures. The more updated one, Expedition 33 actually reached 120k, 120,000 concurrent players, which is insane. It got more player base or more concurrent players than Metaphor, more than Persona 3 Reload, more than the Final Fantasy games that's released on PC. So these heavy hitters with huge fan bases and established games that had history, years upon years upon years of history built into them, yet Expedition has surpassed their figures. Now, before we go into this, right, I want to say why this is BS. Not only Steam charts are just BS, but this doesn't take into account that Final Fantasy games like Remake, Rebirth, Final Fantasy 16. These games came out like a year or year, 2.5 after they were released on the console. So this is beyond after the hype died down. So it's kind of unfair to make these comparisons. So I've seen people post like, oh my god, look at these Expedition 33 beats Final Fantasy, etc. I'm like, duh, this is like a year plus. But what I'll say is this is extremely impressive compared to Metaphor, because Metaphor is like a big RPG that was heavily marketed by Atlas, and yet Expedition had more concurrent players. It's actually insane. Now, before we go beyond this discussion, I do want to clarify this. Let's not pit these games against each other. Let's not do that. Let's be happy that RPGs are thriving. Let's be happy that turn-based is doing well, and there's still an appeal for it. Again, the directors, the devs of Expedition 33 love JRPGs. They're big fans of these games, so they'll be saddened that the community are trying to shit on other games and other communities as a way to push Expedition 33. Like, you should push the game for the game itself, how it plays, the characters, the world, the story. Not say, oh, Final Fantasy games suck, Persona games suck, this is why I stick to turn-based, etc. Like, calm down, okay? Expedition 33, for all we know, it might not have existed if it wasn't thanks to Final Fantasy, Persona, or any other JRPGs in the first place. So let's appreciate all games, please, if they're good, of course. And these games on this list, as you can see, are all amazing games. On top of that, FF7 Remake Twitter account, they even like promoted Expedition 33. They were even applauding and congratulating their devs, saying congratulations on the release of Expedition 33. So even FF7 Final Fantasy team are promoting and pushing Expedition 33. They didn't need to do it. They're not getting paid to do it. They're just doing it because they're probably fan of Expedition 33 and they probably have a good relationship with them and the devs. So why the hell are the fans and the communities are fighting against each other? Like, let's not do that, please. It's mostly with the Expedition 33 right now that their fans and community are attacking these other communities. I don't get it. Again, it could be recency bias, and again, this game is in its honeymoon phase. I do want to talk about this as well. So this is the Metascore. So Expedition 33 is one of the highest rated scored games on Metascore at 92. Ironically, alongside Final Fantasy 12, that also scored 92. It's funny because this Final Fantasy gets forgotten quite often, which is kind of sad. I've seen a post, I don't know if I can find it, where it's like, since Final Fantasy 10, turn-based games have been dead or something. Mate, Final Fantasy 12, like, hello? Are we just gonna ignore this game? Or the Persona games? If you're talking about Square Enix in particular, then fair enough, not Persona, but Final Fantasy 12 is right here. The Final Fantasy 13 games, say what you will about those games, but the combat system was actually really good, especially Lightning Returns. This post right here, this post caused a lot of controversy on Twitter. I'm telling you right now, Twitter is a cesspool, it's full of weirdos. I'll talk about Twitter a bit later. So this user goes, for 20 years straight, Final Fantasy fans have been gaslit and no one wants turn-based combat. That it will never sell and they're wrong for even wanting it. Expedition 33 destroyed that lie in a single day. Now, the response that people gave to this guy is so funny. Look at this one right here. Turn-based fans when Square Enix releases a non-Final Fantasy turn-based games. I pretend I do not see it. So we got Octopath Traveler 2, Triangle Strategy, Dragon Quest games. I don't know what that game is. Tactic Ogre Reborn. I don't know what the title of that is. Bravely Default, Fantasian, which I believe is not a Square Enix game. But we got Bravely Default again. Like, where's the support for these games? Hello, if you want Square Enix to push AAA turn-based games, then you guys should be supporting these other turn-based games that they made that don't do well or as well in the Western side of things. Octopath Traveler 2 even sold that well, so I don't know if they're gonna make a sequel. It's not a Bravely Default series that the fans have been clamoring for a sequel. Square Enix have not done that yet, but seemingly since there's no sequel, is that sign, you know, these games are not doing well. And that goes with all these games, because all these games are turn-based. Dragon Quest, let me check the sales worldwide. So this is all statistics 4 years ago, so it could be higher. So Dragon Quest 11 sold 2 million copies in the West. Now that 2 million might achieve, you know, 3 million by now. I don't know if that will be the case. But total sales from this website, 7 million in total. Dragon Quest 11. Now, if you don't know about this series is hugely popular in Japan, but everywhere else, like the Western side, they're not like the biggest fan of Dragon Quest. Now, I'm not saying the game is bad over there, but it's not as popular. So I bet you 45 million or most of the sales of Dragon Quest 11 came from Japan alone. And it's kind of funny because Final Fantasy is actually opposite. Final Fantasy performed well worldwide or over the world, but sadly it doesn't perform that well in Japan. Like, I don't know what it is, but Japanese audience, they don't vibe with Final Fantasy as of late. Maybe it could be turn-based. I think the Japanese audience love turn-based combat. Now, because of Expedition 33, this has caused a lot of discourse in the Final Fantasy community. Right now, we're in a time where there's a discourse for Final Fantasy. Like, there's always a discourse. It's been like this for at least 10 years, if not 10 plus years. I say since Final Fantasy 13. Ever since then, people love to like hate or talk negatively about Final Fantasy, which is insane to me because even to this day, they are some of the best games I played. Despite how unfinished they could be, still love them. And the narrative that's going forth right now is that Square Enix are a crap company to drop turn-based for their AAA games, or should I say Final Fantasy games. And they're bringing up the fact that I'm sure some of the devs or directors from Square Enix for these Final Fantasy games have mentioned that turn-based doesn't really have like a broader appeal. Now, I've seen some people like misconstrue that and tweak it for their, you know, their narrative. They're saying stuff like, oh my god, look at Square Enix, they've been saying for years that turn-based games are dead. They never said that. They just said the appeal for turn-based isn't really up there when it comes to the general audience. And you can't hate them for that because that's kind of true, right? For let's just say casual audience, like forget turn-based fans, let's talk about someone down the road. The other genre of gaming fans, if they see turn-based, they might be turned off from it. If they see an action-based game, they might be more driven towards it. And to me, this is my personal opinion, but I think action or hack and slash game have more of a broader appeal than a turn-based game. I know people are gonna say Pokemon, one of the highest selling games of all time, that's turn-based. You cannot compare anything to Pokemon. You cannot. Pokemon is just a league on its own. It's one of the biggest popular IPs of all time. And to me, Pokemon games thrive a lot more on portable devices. Now let's talk about other Square Enix games I've made that's turn-based that went under the radar for a lot of the turn-based fans. Like, this is where you guys should be supporting it, promoting these games. But sadly, I don't think these games do well or did well. And these are turn-based games made by Square Enix, albeit they are not AAA games. Doesn't change the fact they are still very good turn-based games. So one example, World of Final Fantasy right here. I love this game. I played this game in 2020 during lockdown, just before Remake came out, and I got on Switch. I really gelled with this game a lot. I dig the characters, the world, the music, the combat mechanics, and this is a turn-based game that had innovative combat mechanics. This had this stacking system where you can stack on top of your, I forgot what you call them, Pokemons or whatever you call these creatures, like cool ass creatures. It's been a while since I played it. Either you stack on top of them or they stack on top of you, and whatever you do, change the properties of the combat. It changes some of the attributes with turn-based combat in this game. So this is an example of a turn-based game that sadly did not do well. To me, this is like an amazing game. You ain't gonna get no like near automata level of storytelling or Final Fantasy level of characters, but it's still a really good game. I don't know what it is, something about it, I just vibe with it. And 100% for sure deserves a sequel. They even had that sequel ending, a teaser ending to set up the sequel, and it looked like they was going for like a serious tone shift. And sadly, I don't think we'll ever get that ever again. And I think one of the devs or the developers for this game left the company, which is sad because I would like for a sequel. But this is where the turn-based fanatics and fans should support SquareEnix. The main Final Fantasy isn't the only one that's become a victim in this discourse. Metaphor is also another one. So this post right here, oh no, now we got people calling Metaphor soulless and just a reskin Persona because of Expedition 33. You guys are putting a bad name for this game. Please stop it. You don't need to trash other games. Give it a month or two from now. Whoever says this stuff, you might not believe it a month or two from now. Because again, it's a hype for 33 right now because it just came out. It's sad to see this when both games look amazing and play amazing. Now I want to talk about it. This is a very true statement right here. So this user accounts on Twitter X. Final Fantasy fans are so obsessed with the combat that they forget what actually defines the series. It ain't the combat, by the way, because we have people that are saying Final Fantasy 17 should be turn-based. This is so true. Like, when does the success of a Final Fantasy JRPG game comes down to turn-based? It doesn't. It really doesn't. Think about it. The old school Final Fantasy games are still some of the best games, games of all time. If not games, some of the best RPGs of all time. And that's from a game that's like 20 plus years ago, with a turn-based style that may or may not age well. Yet people still love them and still relish in the fact that they are stunning masterpieces of games, right? And that's true, because when I play a JRPG or RPG, I don't just go for the combat, right? I just need the combat to be good enough, engaging enough, fun enough to make me continue playing it. Final Fantasy X is amazing. Final Fantasy 9 is amazing. 8's amazing, 7's amazing. All these Final Fantasy games are still amazing, despite the differences between them when it comes to combat isn't that staggering. I'm not saying there's no differences, there is, but isn't that huge. Yet they are so extremely successful. That's because the other factors carry it, right? Like the characters are so important in RPG. Role-playing games, in a name, they need to be captivating. The world building needs to be well thought out. The world you're exploring needs to be very interactable and fun to explore. The story narrative is one of the most important things, right? Story and characters are the most important things for an RPG, because you're telling a story. You're telling these characters their journey. And then I'll say combat mechanics is the third most important. An example of this, right? Witcher 3. Witcher 3 is an amazing game. The combat sucked to me. I did not like the combat. It was extremely underwhelming after all the praise I got. But everything else carries. You know, the character carries. The world carries. The story, even though it's not amazing, carries. But the side story, the side missions had phenomenal stories, and they obviously carried, right? So this is an example where an RPG doesn't need to have amazing combat mechanics, combat system. Another one, Baldur's Gate. But Baldur's Gate's free, yet to play it. But I've seen people being turned off by the combat system in that game. But because of how the game works, the systems, the role-playing aspects, it kept the players engaged and attentive to the game itself. Now let's talk about the most recent AAA Final Fantasy or Square Enix games. So right now is Final Fantasy Remake Trilogy and Final Fantasy 16. Heck, let's throw Final Fantasy 15 into the mix. So let's start with 16, right? Final Fantasy 16, the fans of Final Fantasy dislike the combat in that game. Like, really disliked it. But I'll say newcomers, they were a big fan of that system, that style. Now, my opinion with the whole thing of Final Fantasy 16 combat mechanics, I think it's a really well thought out battle system, hacker slash system. My only gripe is that this only really works with shorter length games. What I mean is the DMC, the Ninja Gaiden. What else is there? Even the Nier Automata, right? Which is technically considered hacker slash. What do they have in common? They are shorter stories, shorter games. It takes like 20 to 30 hours. Nier Automata, even with all three main endings, took me 30-ish hours. Hack and slash suits those type of games with shorter stories. Mega Rising Revenge is another example. But a game like Final Fantasy 16, which took me 70 hours, that's too long. The problem is with these long games, and it's hack and slash, if you don't keep it innovative enough and switch it up, add, unique aspects to it, throughout your journey, the combat just falls off. And that's what happened with Final Fantasy 16, sadly, to me anyways. I feel like, cut the hours, it shouldn't be a 70-hour journey for Final Fantasy 16. It should not. I believe a lot of the issues with that game would be resolved if it was like 40-50 hours journey and that's it. Biggest issue with that combat system is party system or party mechanic. If you was able to switch between the party members and if you actually had a party with you, that would have resolved a lot of complaints when it comes to the combat of the game, because it will keep it refreshing. If you get bored with Clive, you can switch to a mage. If you're bored with mage, you can switch to, I don't know, an archer, or switch to Torgal and play as a wolf like Twilight Princess. But that is a game that didn't sell as well as what Square Enix expected to, and that isn't because of combat to me. I think a lot of the flaws of Final Fantasy 16 came from the other aspects, like the story. The story is not bad. Before anyone gets annoyed, I'm a big fan of this game, but there's a lot of things I've gripes with. But I think the story was so safe. Not bad, but it's safe. And the story peaked during Phoenix Gate incident. After that, it kind of fell off for the story for me. So that's where the major flaws for that game came from, not the combat mechanics, though it did play a role. But the story characters was really engaging enough and has a very good last impression. People would just disregard the combat. Look at Witcher 3, best example right there. Same with Nier Automata. The combat remained basically the same for the most part, but the story was freaking insane, like absolutely amazing. And this combat made by Platinum Studios, one of the best action-based devs there is out there. Which was the first appeal for Nier Automata, was the combat. It wasn't the story, it was the combat. But people realized the story and characters is what sent that game to new heights. So Final Fantasy 16 is an example where it should be turn-based. So you might think future games should be turn-based combat. No. Let's talk about Final Fantasy 7 Remake Trilogy games. So we got Remake and in Rebirth, they one-ups itself somehow. Well, Rebirth is like one of the best RPG, not JRPG, RPG game of all time. And that is the direction they should go for. Where it's action-based with some strategy elements into it. And even how much I praise the style of combat, there's still some things they need to fix. And that is like aerial combat. Even though that is resolved with certain members of the team like Yuffie, I still think there still needs to be some tweaks in regards to that department, just to make it super perfect. So this is why it kind of triggers me, like, why a lot of the Expedition 33 fans and the community are really trying to go at the Final Fantasy community, the devs. I'm like, are we just gonna ignore the Remake Trilogy? Because right now whoever of you have played Expedition 33 and the Remake Trilogy, if I give you this question, which do you prefer combat style? Remake Trilogy or Expedition 33? And give me an honest answer. And if you say 33, maybe in your eyes we should go for turn-based. But if you say the remake combats, then I don't know why people are complaining about Square Enix AAA game combat system. I don't get it. We're getting some of that ATB system in the Remake Trilogy. We got Final Fantasy 15 as well. I really love that combat. It's not the best, but I didn't really hate it as much as what people say. And especially when you add the party system. And that party system in the Final Fantasy Royal Edition, that resolved a lot of the complaints. And that's the same with Final Fantasy 16. I feel like every Final Fantasy game, you need a party system. Look at Tales series, Tales of Arise. What's up the Grand Blue Fantasy game? How do they do it, but not Final Fantasy 16? That's literally the worst thing. The party system's so unfortunate. Look at Star Ocean, they do as well. So let's take it even further back for the AAA Square Enix Final Fantasy game. Let's take it back to Final Fantasy 13. Now this has a lot of hate, right? I think Final Fantasy 13 probably has the most hate out of any Final Fantasy of all time. That's what I believe. The combat system is actually really good in those games, especially Final Fantasy 13 Versus. I'll put a video somewhere. The combat in Final Fantasy 13 Versus, or did I say Versus? I meant Final Fantasy 13 Lightning Returns. Honestly, that combat for turn-based was really peaking. They had a good recipe there, that's a good formula. So that's my 2 cents on the whole thing. I want a Final Fantasy Lightning Returns style of combat, or a Final Fantasy Remake style of combat for the future Final Fantasy title game. I would not mind or would not hate if they try again Final Fantasy 16 style combat. I hope people were triggered by that game, but I wouldn't mind if they tried it again, but this time Square Enix, please add a party system or add ways to make it more strategy based. But again, what I want the most would be a remake style game, then Lightning Returns, then like turn based like Expedition 33, that style maybe, and action based like DMC last. I mean, look at this combat right here. Right, look at this Tifa gameplay. This is so saucy, man. This just makes me feel so OP, and it makes me have such a fun time because this is doable. If you're good enough, it's really doable. And that's what I love about Final Fantasy Remake Trilogy games. You can play it slow, you can play it tactical, but you can also play it very DMC-like, as with this example right here. This is so true right here. This controversy is so nice. Now I want to talk about the Expedition 33 a bit. I do plan on playing it as a first time. This game is so successful, it got confirmed a live action film. what the hell. So I'm guessing Robert Pattinson is going to be confirmed to be the main actor. If not, you can get the Daredevil guy. What's the name? Charlie Cox, right? I don't know if this is a good thing, but that shows how successful this game already is. Now I want to talk about Expedition 33 for a tad bits. I feel like there's this controversy, a whole topic when it comes to turn-based strategy games coming on this renaissance that they're trying to push again. Someone made a good point. The reason why Expedition 33 got more acknowledged and more recognized than the other hundreds of turn-based games that came out in the last few years that doesn't get talked not nearly enough compared to 33 is because of the art style for Expedition 33. So 33 has this high fidelity look, high graphics. I don't know if it's Unreal Engine 5, I would not be surprised, which is, by the way, extremely impressive considering, again, this is an indie dev with indie budget. So somehow they made it look like a AAA game. That shows how talented these guys are. So I believe the art style and graphics is really why this made a huge impression in RPG community right now. Which is a good thing and bad thing because it's kind of sad how all these other hundreds of indie games are also really good, like Indivisible gets forgotten or not talked about. Another thing with this style, it doesn't have like an anime art style in a way. It has like a realistic, again, vision. Like the characters, they look like characters you've seen in real world. They don't have like big eyes, animated proportions like Final Fantasy games. Even though I prefer Final Fantasy character designs or JRPG, character designs, surprisingly, the realistic, the mocap look is actually more appealing to the Western audience, surprisingly. Like look at this comment right here. This is a minority, I do agree, but this comment is kind of weird. It goes, what really makes Claire Obscure Expedition 33 really different from its peers is the art style. No wacky anime nonsense, thus the serious tone is consistent and very much real throughout the game. It's just a stupid statement. The guy even got ratioed, like look, this is the director again. Favorite games. But yes, the director is a huge fan of JRPGs, which is anime based art style. And someone also responded with this. I don't want to look into this too much, but his gameplay looks very anime. It looks so anime. That's what I love. Like anime has like the coolest shit, man. They have so much cool stuff going on that I feel like a lot of Western creators don't really capture. The 33 devs, they killed it. They know anime is cool AF. So that's what they put in the games. Look at the art style for these freaking bosses. They look like straight out of Dark Souls. Now with this game, I do want to attempt it. I do want to try it. If you want to see me play it, let me know in the comments below. I saw my friend sent me it. Ichigo Zangetsu and Rukia's Zanpatsu Shirayuki is actually in the game. These guys are based. They love Final Fantasy and Bleach, two of my favorite things of all time. So I have to jump into this game now. I have to, right? So I do want to try it. I want to see, especially gameplay, see how the turn-based is, if it's as good as what people say. I will be critical, but obviously fair at the same time. I won't be super glazing, but I also won't be like hating, oh my god, I don't like turn-based. So I don't mind turn-based, like I said, but I just prefer action-based combats. Sprinkle in with some strategy, like 7 Remake. But what scares me, what makes you skeptical about this game, people are praising it high-end, but I don't see anyone be critical, like at all. It's hard. Because while I love this art style, right now, the bleak look isn't doing it for me yet. That could change when I play it. Just like Nier Automata had a very washed down look to it, and now it's one of my favorite games of all time. But besides that, nobody's talking about any of the problems, like linearity. I've seen a lot of corridors. I remember that's a huge complaint for like a lot of the past Final Fantasy games, especially Final Fantasy 13, but this gets a pass. I mean, this could be good linearity, but I don't know how that would make sense. Same for like a recent, it's not a turn-based game, but Black Myth Wukong had linearity and people didn't like that as well. Another one my friend told me, my friend he's been hyped for this game and he's loving it. But he told me there's no map to see where you are. If that's true, he could be just a fool and he's looking into that. If that's true, that is a negative. I never give any game 10 out of 10. Even my favorite game of all time, I never give that 10 out of 10 because there's room for improvement. So this is definitely wouldn't be a 10 out of 10 if there's no map, because that's something that should be there, that can be improved for the next game. Like a map needs to be there. I hate Black Myth Wukong. So that's already a complaint or problem that I don't see anyone talk about. So that's what makes me skeptical, you know, like everyone's praising this, but nobody's talking about any issues. Now, I'm not saying be a hater, but it's good to be somewhat critical so that the devs know how or what to improve for future games or installments. So that is it. That was the discussion. Let me know in the comments below whether you agree, disagree with my, thoughts or opinions on this. Let's not attack one or the other. Like, there's a Final Fantasy Discourse going on right now. I will be making a video on that, where a lot of Final Fantasy fans are just gloomy ass people. Can we appreciate the hard work these devs have put and the good parts about the game? That they take any chance to attack Final Fantasy, even though they're part of the Final Fantasy community. This community is trash right now. This happened last time with Final Fantasy 15 when that was coming out. People put that against Persona 5 because Persona 5 came out after 15 release. And now we're getting Final Fantasy 7 Remake and 16 versus Expedition 33. What's happening? Can we stop doing this? And stop the goonery behavior. I seen the topic of one of the girls about, she's like 16 years of age and talk about attractiveness. Can we stop the goonery, the Tom goonery? We are not accepting that behavior, please. We need to stop that. Can we appreciate the characters for what they are, their story arcs, their personality, character himself? Can we just appreciate that? Stop doing this goonery behavior. I hate it for Tifa. And now we're getting some of that in this. Please, I'm telling you right now, Twitter full of criminals. 80% of Twitter users are criminals. I bet you. Let me know in the comments below if you agree, disagree with my points. Let's have a discussion together. I would like to see what you guys think. Well, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, subscribe. And until next time, I'll catch you guys later. Tune in to my playthroughs. I will be making more content on this game. So until next time, bye.